Divine Mother, my Divine Mother, Divine Mother, my Divine Mother.
So I want to say a little something about Roshi Joan before I ask her to respond to this question. I met her in Santa Fe. I used to live in Santa Fe, and I met her many, many, many years ago. And of course I've known Roshi has a wonderful organization called Upaya Foundation, and she is an abbot of the monastery, and she has been doing this work since the mid-60s and has, many of you know, if you've looked at her bio, I don't really have to say anything about her accomplishments. But my initial, I've never told you this, so my initial encounter with Roshi was fierce. I guess RamDas and I were doing something in Santa Fe, and she was part of it. And I forget what went wrong, but something went wrong, and
I share.
We felt the wrath of Roshi. And time went on.
You recovered.
I recovered.
I didn't.
And about a year ago, we found ourselves, just happened to be, for various reasons, at RamDas's house together, whatever we were doing. And she said to me, "I'm here for my heart transplant." I said, "Really?" She said, "Yes, I come here every year for the transplant." Anyhow, we spent some time together then, and the tremendous love that was palpably we were living in this essence between Roshi and RamDas, and I was kind of in the middle of it, because we were spending a lot of time together, completely turned around this whole perspective I had, shall we say, of Roshi, the fierce Buddhist. And the other thing to say about this is that we have, Maharaji had us from the very earliest days. I was telling Roshi last night, he never told us to do anything, and he didn't teach per se, but we all found ourselves doing Vipassana courses, Southern Buddhist practice of meditation, like almost all of us, even if some of us, to this day, many of us have kept that practice, and to this day, many of us have been involved in Buddhist connections, either through Dalai Lama or through Lama Suryadas, who some of you know, became a Lama and spent a lot of incredible practice time after his sojourn in India with Maharaji. And many of us have, so it's also curious that since RamDas has been on this island and we've had these retreats, that the people that we have been doing, that RamDas has been doing these retreats with, have for the most part been with his Buddhist friends. Sharon Salzberg, Roshi, Jack Cornfield's going to be doing something with us at the end of the year. And I think that there's a real reason that our tradition, of course, is Bhakti Yoga and Guru's grace, Guru Kripa, and that's what we represent. Why do we always have these Buddhists with us, though? Do you have any understanding? So the question here is not that. The question is, how can you tell us how Buddhism represents love? We all know it as a sort of, more intellectual, drier tradition, shall we say? At least from the Bhakti point of view. So you need to represent your tradition here, Roshi, and tell us about love in Buddhism.
Thanks, Raghu, so much. So as you were talking, I was remembering being in Plum Village with Thich Nhat Hanh many years ago, and he was doing a long teaching on the Vajrachedika, which is the Diamond Sutra, the Diamond Cutter Sutra. And the sutra itself is very dry, you could say. You know, what you would associate with what Raghu is saying. But he began these teachings in a remarkable way. And he began with a sentence that caught my complete attention. And it swept the 200 or 300 of us in this retreat down a river of love. So we were all there sitting in the Dharma Nectar Hall. It was hotter than the hinges of hell. He comes out with his, sort of Buddha field emanating. The guitar has been playing. There's all this kind of feeling of slowness and kindness in the room. He picks this little cassette recorder out of his pocket and he said, it's August 1st, 1990 something. And he put his little cassette recorder down. Anybody seen him do that? Well, this is how he used to do it before, the technology got a little more advanced. And then he looked out with this very blissful gaze and he said, I met her when I was 22. And the 200 or 300 of us in the Dharma Hall were like, what? Wow, that's really far out. Tell us more. And at this time, the war was raging in Vietnam. There was the North, and there was the South. And there was America. And there was all of the anger and confusion on the part of people like us. And then he said, I had been asked by the abbot of my monastery, because he was going to take a vacation to be kind of in charge of things. And we had the monastery and then we had the nunnery. And I went out for a walk and I saw her standing on this parapet. And I felt completely flooded with love. And she was a nun, a little younger than me. And I walked up to her and we stood close to each other, but we never touched. And we began to talk about the suffering in Vietnam. And he said it was then that the School for Social Service in Vietnam was born, at that moment. And that became, years later, the Thie Bien Order and the whole sort of incredible scene around Thai. And it ended up that she was sent to northern Vietnam for engaging so vitally with Thai. And it was a kind of punishment that they experienced. He never touched her. And as he told the story, you could feel her life as a presence in our midst. And then he went back to an earlier time. And he said, before I became a monk, one day my family received in the mail little magazine, and on the cover of the magazine was an image of the Buddha, and he said then, I really fell in love. And then a few months later, our school group was taken out on a little hike, and we hiked up this mountainside, and we had heard that there was a hermit who lived high up in the mountain. And I had this deep longing. I really wanted to meet him. And so I also heard that near his little hut there was a beautiful well. And it was a very hot day, and I had just a little tiny bit to eat, a little sort of vegetable roll, and I had a little bit of water, but I had drunk it all, and I went hiking up and hiking some more, and I was looking for the hermit in the hermit's hut, and I came upon the well. And then he said, I never met the hermit physically, but I felt his presence at the well, and I knew what love was. So, from the Buddhist point of view, this is the experience of, I think, what you were speaking about. It's having your heart completely awakened. And I ask you then for just a moment to shut your eyes. Would you do that for just a moment? And in the next breath, really let yourself drop into your body. This precious human body. No matter what this body has been through, still to be in this incarnation, in this moment, is such a blessing. To be with Baba, to be with friends, to be with each other, and it happens through the medium of so much, so many streams come together into the well of this moment, deep in the underground of our life. And we can thank this body. Somehow this incarnation has made it possible for us to be now in this place, just now, away from hatred, away from greed, from the terrible thirst of the consumerism of our society, away from ignorance, being completely confused, into this body and heart of this moment. Free of bombs, free of hunger, free of discrimination, and feeling the blessing of Maharaji, of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of every type. And I ask you for one moment, just for a moment, remember, no matter what age or in what circumstance, the first time that you felt touched by love. Was it the glance of a mother or a grandmother? Was it a pear in the summer underneath the pear tree where you were sitting, and just the perfume from the pear, or the feeling of the ripe pear in your hands? Was it a moment of luminosity at dusk? or the connect you had with a dear friend when you were a child. Or the gaze of your dog or cat, which was so undefended. So what was it for you? Just rest in that moment. And remember how your body felt at this first arising of conscious love. That unconditional sense of mystery, of blessing, of gift. And if the memory is not accessible to you, just turn your basic kindness towards yourself and rest in that. Or remember Baba just now lighting up, speaking about Maharaji, and rest in his eyes as he brings Maharaji into our presence in this room. And think of this like Thai did, as the hermit's well, with the nourishment, the coolness, the freshness. That is who you and I and all beings really are. And when the little self kind of pokes in there, you can just say, "Hi, old friend, I know you." And come back to breath in the body. Remembering who you really are. So boundless. Deeper than your personality. Not caught in the strains of your identity, but just in a state of relaxation and ease. Boundless kindness. And once more, touch into that memory of the first love, or just this moment with Baba, invoking Maharaji. And as you do, sense into your body. And then whatever qualities are present for you that are characterized by a sense of blessing, on the exhale, let all the goodness of your first love flow out toward all beings everywhere. And on the inhale, give yourself the kind of space that is natural for you. This sense of big-heartedness, spaciousness, beyond the box, into boundlessness. And on the exhale, send kindness, if you will, the nectar of first love into the world. And in the Buddhist way we say, may the merit of this practice nourish each thing in all realms and benefit all beings. So thank you for the practice moment. Thank you. So, Raghu, so often we try to wrap words around our experience and the narrative self, which is really, an important part of our whole life, the stories, the sense of meaning and purpose. They give us a kind of grounding for us moving beyond the story into this sense of boundlessness. And sometimes we get caught in the story, but I think what Baba was doing earlier when he was telling this beautiful story of being caught in his identity and then released through the medium of love. On one level, we can kind of relate, personally. We've had that experience. But on another level, we were taken into the experience. We experienced Maharaji's love that was offered to us through the vehicle of the story. So, you asked in Buddhism, what is love? And it's not the story. It's what Baba was saying, it's being love. And we can use a lot of words, of course, since we're up here, I would just prefer to sit here in silence and kind of swoon for the morning. but I think there's an expectation for some vehicle. The vehicle in this case is story and language. But the thing that so touched me about this morning, even those of us who know the story, is that we were transported past the story into the actual experience. And I experienced that last night in the music as well. Wow. It just, we can say Ganesha, but to feel the sense of really coming home through the beauty of the music as a direct and unfiltered experience. So I think from the Buddhist perspective, that's what love is.
Thank you. That's great. We are getting closer to our lunchtime, but I thought we could have these, at least a few minutes here of any questions that people might have around what we have experienced so far this morning. So Mike is going to go around with a microphone, and we also have questions from people who are online, and we can ask a couple of those, but I think it's fair to say let's start with our physical audience. Anybody have a question? Guess we proved your point, Roshi. Oh, no, here's a question.
This is from RamDas. Looking back, how does time seem to you? You said 40-some years ago. So time does such funny things next to the mind. From your seat now.
Well, my seat now, this seat, that is my seat. I am infinite, and I am in this body, which very timely is time. And Maharaji's infinite, and we just hang out together. He's jumped another plane. He's left his body, but there's nothing that's changed. I don't touch his feet or thing, but so what? So what? I don't go to India. Not right here, right now, right here. And he and I are infinite. And in love. So I'd say, and you know, I recite that story many hundreds and hundreds of times because I know it can hook another person. And it's just hooking, and like it's interesting about gurus. In India, they say you don't seek the guru seeks you. And I felt caught by him and his net. And I've seen many, many people caught from movies, from books, from lectures. Somebody's coming and meeting me, and I'm just looking over my shoulder there's Maharaji. He wants that person. He wants that person. And wants for love. And he wants that they will go towards God. It's not like I want a devotee, but it's and so. And you, all of you, he's got his net out. If you, the little feeling of love, And the spiritual love. Yum, 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 yum.
Any other questions?
Thank you, RamDas, Roshi. I don't care who answers it. But having reached a feeling of awareness, and we go back home and we fall into a hole, so we feel that we've let ourselves down, how do you respond to hold on to the thread that we've experienced, felt, or been taught?
I'm happy to repeat the question for you. How, when you've been nourished into a state of awareness, like in a situation that we're in, and you go back home and you fall into a hole, how do you keep some kind of continuity or reference point, or keep the heart alive? Is that okay?
What is it?
Well, I think one of the most important things that we can do is to use our motivation, our aspiration, as a kind of ballast. That we know that we're going to fall off the wagon. We know we're going to fall down. We say in Zen, fall down 53 times, get up 54. But it's also to know that every time we fall off, the possibility for strengthening our own life is increased just by virtue of us standing up once again. And that's true of a complex dynamical system. What we found out from systems theory is that systems that break down and learn how to repair themselves at a higher order. So they become stronger as a result of breakdown. I mean, a system that doesn't break down becomes moribund. It's dead. I mean, the point is we fall off the wagon and we stand up again. And so one of the things that we are asked to do is to reappraise the falling down process. It's more like, oh, I got stroked. And I laughed at it. I have to just add, when I said I got screwed, I didn't mean it that way. Whichever way you might have interpreted that. It was that I also fell down and shattered my leg. And you have a plate and a screw and pins and all this stuff. And even at the time, I saw it as this incredible gift. It changed my life, somewhat. Deb's laughing, who was in the Himalayas with me last year. But it did change my life. It got me to stop and go within. And I never cursed the situation, though my bikini days ended as a result of the surgery. But it was more like, wow, that was really an amazing experience to go through. So for me, it's coming back to that capacity to reappraise and to remember who you really are, which is in the context of our practice. So it's leading me to the second point. And that is, I think it's really important to have a daily practice. And it doesn't necessarily mean something that is sort of Zen-like and goes on and on. It could be just offering a stick of incense. It could be 5 minutes of just coming home to your breath. It could be serving your husband breakfast once a week. You might do it 7 days, I don't know. But, it's something that is a resource for you, that brings you back home, that that for me, it has to kind of happen at the same time of day, every day, so that my preferential mind gets put aside. And I just do this no matter what. So it's like that. It's a touchstone. It's a coming home. It's a way to drop in. So one is to remember who you really are and why you're here. Which is, from the Buddhist perspective, it's to awaken in order to serve others, awakening. And two is to, when you fall down, know that's a gift too. Standing up gives you strength. And the third is, have a practice. Have a place where you come home. Yeah, something like that.
Is that okay, Baba?
Every time I fall down, the hole that I fell into was created by my mind. It's mind stuff. Mind stuff. And since we have ego, and then we have the real self. The real self, the spiritual heart, that spiritual heart witnesses our incarnation and witnesses our thoughts, our stream of thoughts. And if you can identify with the witness, much more than identifying with your thought, like, oh God, I fell into the hole. It's a thought, but you can witness the thought. Because the witness is part of that spiritual self. And you're identifying with the thought is when you're feeling in the hole, and identifying with the witness is it's better. It's like distant from the feelings, from the emotions. And when I find a hole in the mind, my thoughts, that thought is not getting me to God. No, I don't say, why do I want that? Why do I want that? I don't want that. It just it's crap. And then, well, if I start to get angry at it, that's going to ruin my heart. So I love it to death. I love it to death. I love it to death. nibbles. I love my falling off the path. So in a way, it deepens my love.
That was good, Baba.
So we we are at the end of this session, but would you do one other thing, Roshi? Could you just give us a little heart sutra to end this, please?
Kate, ara, kate, ara sangate, bodhisva. Kate, ara, Arasangate Murisva. Kate, Ara, Arasangate
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.